Hello, everyone. This is Stephen with the Would Somebody Testify podcast. After Brother Juan and S Teresa and I got done with the main episode, we got to talking about a few other miscellaneous stories that may end up in a compilation episode later. Among those stories were a few interesting stories surrounding their courtship and early marriage. These I did not feel justified in adding to the main episode, and yet they aren't the kind of stories that I would make a testimony episode out of. But in honor of their 25th, I decided to go ahead and air these stories. Hope you enjoy.
I know that you wanted us to, talk about maybe our courtship or relationship or previous. And one of the ones that I thought that I would maybe like to share is, I had some different friends before Teresa. And I always, not having a Christian mom and a Christian dad, I would always lean towards Brother Bud and Sister Bonnie's, their advice towards their boys. And I used to work with Brother Bud and riding sometimes to the mountains. I would pretend like I was asleep in the back seat, and Brother Bud would be lecturing the boys about how they, should act. So I would take notes, but just pretend like I wasn't listening. And Sister Bonnie would always share and would tell the boys, never date a girl you would not be willing to marry, because it's so easy to fall in love. And so I always use that as a good advice from Sister Bonnie, that I would always try to, find a girl that was in church, was a good Christian girl, and that she was pretty and came from a good home. They was, good in church. But then things would happen, and, you just kind of didn't work out, and you get your heart broken, and then also you start again. And I remember, like I said, we had met and known each other, but nothing serious. But I remember one night in church, we went down to the altar to pray, and I don't know what the preaching was, if it was even related to any of this, but I know that in my mind was like, I was tired. I remember kneeling down and just as quietly, I don't pray out loud, and just quietly in myself, I remember telling the Lord, I am tired of dating. I don't want a girlfriend no more. I want a wife. And I said, and now it seems like I don't do a good job picking one out. I said, can you pick one out for me? Because I am tired. And if it's not your will for me to get married, take the desire away, because, and I was very sincere in my prayer, and I was very, ready to settle down, but there was nobody to settle down with. So I was taking it to the Lord, and I was very sincere with my prayer. And I remember that the Holy Ghost began to pray for me. And that's the first time that I had ever had that experience. And I remember hearing myself very quietly speaking in tongues, but I could feel inside like the Holy Ghost was taking my request that I couldn't even share with God to Him. And when I got done praying, it's like that anxiety and that stress left. And, and it wasn't long after that we went to Jason Dyer's and Jessica's wedding, and we got to see each other again. And that's when things started going. And after, you can tell the dates and stuff, their wedding was when?
Their wedding was in June, and Juan wrote a letter in August.
I don't like to write letters. And that's what she gave me. She would not give me her number. I hinted and I asked for her number several times, but she didn't. And so she gives me her address. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? I said, I hate writing. So, I mean,
I never wanted to be forward. I was available. I always was friendly to him, but as a girl, you don't want to be too forward.
So I sent her a letter in August, you said?
Yeah. And I responded soon, right away. And I actually...
No, but if I'm not mistaken on that letter, maybe we should have talked about this before this. If I'm not mistaken on the letter, I asked for your phone number, and then you said it's public knowledge. I was like, look it up. It's like, what? Like, are you serious? Just give me your number. I mean, like, how hard is it to me? So she was still playing hard to get at 30 years old,
Well, I wasn't 30 yet. I was still 29.
29.
So at Christmas time, I realized maybe I was a little too much. So I sent him a Christmas card.
And since I don't like to write, it took me a while to respond.
So right before camp meeting, so now we're into February, he sends
I sent her a birthday card, not knowing her birthday.
Yes.
And I said, I don't know when your birthday is, but here's a happy birthday card. And it just landed right before.
A month before. And so
when God is your wingman, some things work out great, don't they?
Yeah.
But the card said something like, you're a 10 or something, like, you're the best. So then he has my number.
So finally she gives me her number.
Oh, my goodness.
After she realized this guy's not going to look it up, so I better give it to him. So she finally gives me her number.
And so
I call her.
March on a Saturday.
For
what?
12 hours straight.
No. On a Saturday, he calls me. And that was before the days of like caller ID and, it's a house phone, everybody can. So one of my parents answers the phone, and so they thought it was work related, when he calls, says, can I speak to Teresa? And so I get on the phone and I say, hello. And he says, do you know who this is? And I recognized his voice immediately, but I didn't want to appear too excited. And I said, well, keep talking and I'll see. And he said, this is Juan Lopez in California. And I was very, very excited to hear it. And so I told him, yeah, I know who you are. Great. And that's about all I said. And then 4 hours later, he says, well, we have church tonight. I had to go get ready for church. And I always enjoyed being with him. But then over the phone, it was like we picked up where we left off. And then he waits a whole month to call. And he calls in April.
That's because I had to work hard to pay for that phone bill. That's before unlimited talk was there. So I mean, my phone distance. My phone bill was $200 and some or something.
And so he calls April, and we just talked 3 hours that time. But he said, "I want to come see you. What's going on? When can I come?" And so a month later, in May, he came, and he was there for about 10 days. I don't know exactly. And after he had been there a week, he proposed, and I said yes. But we did not announce because I didn't know any of his family. And I said, here I am, across the country. They don't know me. I'm, different cultures and all. And I said, I do not want to announce until you tell your mom and see if it's okay with her. And he said, Teresa, I am 33 years old.
I think at the time Mom was in Mexico, so.
Yeah, and he's thinking it's hard to reach her. And I said, no. I said, I do not want to cause a problem, And so.
When we planned the trip, I had, I think, called Brother Larry Dyer, and he said I could stay with him. And then her dad called me, and he said, you're welcome to stay at our home, if you would like. I said, well, yeah, I mean, yes, I would. And so I stayed in the room. And one night, after we had visited, everybody went to bed. I went to the room and I began praying. And without a doubt, and I was praying, Lord, I mean, is this your will? Is she the one? And without a doubt, and I knew that she was the one. But I thought, well, now how do I convince her that that it's the Lord's will? And so.
That same night, I shared with my mother, and I said, there's no question, Juan's the one. It's just a matter of...
We didn't know until a few days later. I think
it was the same night.
Or maybe, maybe when I proposed, and after she said yes, she said, "What? When did you know that, I was the one?" And I told her, I said that this night after you went to bed about 1 in the morning, I got down and prayed, and there was no doubt. And he said, that is so weird because that's the same night I went to my room and I prayed and I felt like the Lord told me, it's almost at the same time,
Yes.
The Lord showed that it was his will. So, and, so I thought it was kind of neat.
It is kind of neat. So finally he reached his mom and she said, well, of course, And so we announced on July the 3rd.
I came
back
home.
again.
And if I'm not mistaken, actually, you guys must have been having a Wood family reunion when I got back from seeing her. And because I remember Donnie was there. And you guys they were putting up the white little picket fence in Nana's house. And I went there to help or something. And as soon as I walk up, Rick speaks up and said, so Juan, did you get engaged? And we were not supposed to be announcing yet. And I was like, oh no, and so then they started asking questions like, what is she like? And, what she looked like. And I described her as looking like, I better not name the name, but anyway, just a little exaggeration. And then I said, and anytime she's from the South, she's from Georgia. And, I said, and anytime every time I hear her speak, I said, I just want to get my banjo out and start playing, So they had no clue of what kind of girl this was,
Did you know he was this much of a dork?
Well, when we announced, like the following week, he had come back, and the following week was the first youth camp out here. And so he said, Teresa, please come. He said, I want to introduce you to everybody and show them who I'm going to get married to. And so I came to the first youth camp, and
I was a counselor with Brother Wayne Garman, partners.
Derek. Brother Derek Garman.
Brother Derek.
Brother Garman, yeah.
Yeah, Brother Garman was my partner, counselor. So this was being our first youth camp. We didn't know how to, how things worked. And I have my girlfriend here with me, and I got a bunch of kids. So yeah, I'll do as much as I can. But then I would leave and leave Brother Garman by himself a lot of times, and then come and rescue him.
It was a quick trip. He had already selected a trailer for us to live in, and he said, I want to show you the trailer. So we got away for a couple hours during youth camp, come back to the valley and saw the trailer, and then went back.
I feel sorry for Brother Garman.
He kind of got left with all the boys.
And that was the little ones too. And if it tells you anything, Daniel Cervantes was one of the campers. And he decided that since it was his first youth camp and he had heard some Odyssey and how you're supposed to pranks and stuff, and he decided to squirt toothpaste in somebody's sleeping bag. And when I got in and Brother Garman was trying to deal with all of it, and I come in, and so I had to be the bouncer for Brother Garman. Brother Garman would do devotions and pray before they put him down to bed. Yeah. And Brother Garman was being real spiritual and trying to pray before we go to bed, and the little ones were not ready to pray and not ready to settle down. So I had to be the bouncer trying to settle everybody down while Brother Garman prayed. It was fun. I'll share another one real quick while you're looking for it. She shared that she was not very domestically inclined to cook, but she quickly, I was surprised how quickly she caught on to the cooking and the baking and all this and that. And it wasn't the very...
we had been married 1 year.
1 year.
Is it Sister Bev? You were good? Is that what you're...
No, the Civil War.
We had just been married 1 month. Yeah, because it's in October.
And so we had the Civil War reenactment, and I told her, I said, get something ready, because all the ladies take an ice chest and they take food and they share, and so make sure you take something, from us. And so she thought that you take something and feed everybody. So she took an ice chest with enough, 2 of us. With enough food to feed the whole crowd, She had sandwiches, and she had homemade orange cake, and I forget everything. She had everything.
Well, talking about that, we had been married maybe 2 years, And it was maybe Thanksgiving or Christmas or something. Anyway, we were going to go meet up with some of his family, his extended family. And so it was also the holiday season. So I just got in the kitchen and I made like 4 desserts, 4 cakes, whatever it was. And so when he came in, he said, "Are you ready to go? Let's go." I said, "Well, the only thing is I can't decide which one I should take to your family. And then we've got these other events, church or other things going on." And he said, "Just take them all." And I looked at him like, "Take all these desserts?" He said, "Yeah, they'll eat them. It's going to be a big event and all." So I loaded up. It was 3 or 4 desserts I had made. We took all of those. We just had 2 babies at the time because we were living in Raisin City. And we go to the event. On the way in, walking in, out comes some of the cousins, and they greet us, and we said, "Where are you going?" They said, "Oh, there's no desserts here. Mom fixed all this food, but nobody has desserts." Then we're going to go buy desserts. I didn't realize that the Mexican culture does not have like the desserts like we have. They have the more coffee cakes, bland. And he said, "Well, you don't have to make any. Here, Teresa's got some." And I couldn't believe it when the night was over. There was like no desserts left over. And so I was just like, "Oh, okay. So this is how you do it." So now I know, if we're going to be with his family, she
became such a good cook that my brother had a house with a pool. And so he decided to have a 4th of July party. And he called me and he said, "Hey, I want you guys to come over. We're going to have a 4th of July party. And I'm asking all the ladies to bring a salsa. We're going to have a salsa contest, and the winner is going to get $100. So I come tell Teresa, I said, "We're going to Ephraim's house for the 4th of July. You make some salsa because he's going to have a salsa contest." He said, "I'm not taking my salsa." He said, "All these Mexican ladies and my salsa." I said, "Just make it. It's good." I said, "Who cares, whether you win or not, just take it. It's good to me." And finally talked her into it. And so she takes it, and we get there, and Ephraim gets he had bought a bunch of bowls that looked the same, but he had numbered the bottoms, and so he would number whose salsa it was in the bowls, and so he put the salsas in each bowl, and he had all the men go through and taste the salsas and pick the 3 that they like. Yeah, then he weeded out the rest. It was like 17, maybe 18.
It was a lot.
It was a bunch of them. Yeah, and there's some that I had never tasted. I mean, and. So, and I kept seeing that hers kept moving up, and I thought like, wow. Well, then they made me one of the judges, and I thought, no, I don't want to be. When it got close to the last 3 salsas, maybe I dismissed myself. I said, I don't want to, I know it's hers. One of it is hers, and so I dismissed myself from being a judge. I didn't want to cheat. And so they kept picking, and she ended up being the winner. So it's the only white girl and a bunch of Mexican ladies. And my brother says, "I can't believe that all you Mexican ladies, that the only white girl beat you guys." And
the southern white girl.
The husbands were giving their wives a hard time. And she comes home and she said, "I can't believe I won. I can't believe I won."
I said, "I feel like I need to give Rebecca and you the money because they helped me learn how to cook."
But once she realized Mexican. She could touch, she could, handle the produce and different things. I mean, she took it to heart that I'm going to be like the best cook, and I want to really, learn as much as I can. And she has done great.
I've never been afraid to ask if I didn't know how to do something. So we had been married 1 year because we had Philip. That's how I know. And I called Sister Peggy and I said, "How do you make hamburgers?" And then I had my Betty Crocker cookbook out. And I'm on the phone with Sister Bev. Then I'm making notes. I figure, if you consult with a couple, then you have the idea what to do. And he comes in from working on the house and he's listening to my conversation and he starts hand gesturing like, "Get off the phone, hang up." And so I quickly end the conversation. I said, "What is it?" He said, "You're asking how to make hamburgers?" And I said, "Yeah, I've never made them before. We've been married a year and I've never made hamburgers." And so he goes over to the sink and he washes his hands and he starts rolling up his sleeves and he gets his hands in the meat and he starts doing it. He said, "You just do this. It's really easy." I said, "Oh, okay." But I didn't know, how else am I going to learn? But he just knew like so much, but he not only just did it, like, I know that some guys work in the kitchen and whatever they work out, that's fine. But he was willing to teach me. So I appreciate that.